So I deliberately wrinkled this corner of the drawing because it models exactly what, yes?
It's okay.
Okay, exactly. I've deliberately wrinkled this corner of the drawing just because it mimics exactly what a lot of what Trace starts to do. Plus we've got these edges over here and things like that. So there are three ways to address this overall gray texture here. The first is just with the Magic Wand tool. And the Magic Wand tool has a couple of fun settings underneath it. The Quick Selection tool or the Magic Wand. Magic Wand can be set with a couple of different variables, the sample size and the tolerance of the Magic Wand. So if you click on the Magic Wand and you just make a big selection, you'll start to notice all of these areas of gray that are noticeable across the drawing. This may or may not be the most desirable way to approach the drawing in terms of where the white actually is or where the edge of the drawing is. But if I deselect and I change the tolerance of the Magic Wand to 30, we will see that it has a slightly different behavior to it. And it is indeed starting to select just all of these areas of gray. And if you change it again, if you change the tolerance once again up to 40, for example, it's going to basically start to select the full edge of your drawing, but it might start to impact some of your grays or any sort of the spill out that you have here. So this is the first method, and by simply using the Magic Wand tool and then hitting the delete key, Photoshop will ask you, well, what do you want to do with that? Do you want foreground color, background color, content aware, pattern history, black, 50% gray, or white? Well, what do you want to replace that with? So Photoshop will ask you that. Well, I want to say white and normal and 100% opacity, and it gives me a pretty stark white exterior now edge to the drawing, which may or may not be what I'm after, but in many cases that might be exactly what you're after. And then I can come in, I can pull a ruler line down. The way the ruler is really important for me in Photoshop. I like to go to View and Rulers and turn them on. And then I like to pull them down just to see if my image is exactly where I want it to be. And in this case, I think I need to rotate the image. So I go under Image, Image Rotation, Arbitrary, and I enter a value of maybe, let's say, 1 degree clockwise. And this is starting to get me, into the neighborhood of where I think this drawing needs to be. Then I'll go back to this guideline. I'll push it away. And then I'm just going to go to the Lasso tool. Lasso, there are three options under the Lasso tool. There's the Lasso tool, the Polygon Lasso tool, and the Magnetic Lasso tool. And I will just draw a simple lasso around the drawing of where I think the drawing is. And I think it's, this general area here. Just go yonder around there. And over here. Then I'm going to go to Select, and then I'm going to go to Select Inverse. So I've basically taken the lasso and I've drawn it around the entire drawing, and now I've gone to Select, and then I've selected the inverse of that. I hit Delete. Photoshop will ask me, well, what do you want to do with that fill? I said, well, I want it to be white. And then I deselect, and there it is. There is a white, clean edge around your drawing. Going from, now you want to do the inverse. Go back. Select Inverse. Then hit Delete. Yep. Okay. Now in some cases, Photoshop will just make it transparent. In that case, you just want to grab the paint bucket and some white and drop some paint.
Just to make sure, are you reviewing this?
Sorry?
Or did you start the video?
Yeah.
Hello. Yes. Yes. Hello. Yes. Yes. This is a close-up of my shirt.
Okay. Okay. That's method 1. All right? Method 1. Okay? Any questions? Want me to repeat that?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, how did you get the, I'm a little past it.
All right. For some of you, it's appearing transparent. Some of you, it's appearing black. So, Photoshop giving you that option or not? What I would do, in this case, select inverse, delete. In my case, I'm running Photoshop 2015, and it's giving me the option of white, black, 50% gray. I'm selecting white. In any case, if it's not giving you that option, what I would do is come over to the foreground color and push it to white. Then try it again. Okay. In some cases it might be transparent, but I'm looking around and I'm seeing most of you got it. Okay, that's method one. Close it out. I'm going to start over again. Don't save. All right, method two. Method two. Method two is to, first of all, I want to probably rotate this. I deliberately kind of set this up so that 1 degree clockwise will be the case. You can always, if you have view rulers turned on, you can pull down a ruler and compare it to one of your guidelines or your horizon line. Just make sure that you're kosher there. But you'll notice a significant difference between this white and this gray. The gray of this trace paper versus the white of the background. We can attack this another way. I'm going to go to Select, Color Range. Select, Color Range. Select, and then I will select this weird gray that's there. And I have the ability to control the fuzziness of that, which is kind of like saying tolerance. So I'm going to, I don't want to select all of it, but I want to select a good portion of it that gets that white gray edge around the whole thing. Okay? And what you'll notice is that, it's selected stuff inside the drawing. All right, that's not exactly where we want to be. Okay, not exactly where we want to be. So I'm going to deselect it, and I'm going to try it again. Select color range, and I'm going to select the grayest part of this, and just kind of isolate that. I can deal with the selection versus the image. There's other variables like localized color clusters. You'll notice here it's dealing with just about most of that gray. Okay, and unfortunately it's now selected other stuff in here. This is not a situation where I want to hit that delete button because it'll delete stuff in here. We could try it, but you'll notice that parts of your drawing might disappear. So I'm not so hip to that. So I'm going to go step backward. And what I can do then, if this works for me, then it still gives me a fairly straightforward method of attack by which I can select a brush of some kind and of some size and of some hardness and simply paint white around these edges here. Just kind of get in there and just clean up these edges, but not everything interior. It just gives me a little more control if I just select the color range, and it just gives me a nice soft edge around my drawing, like so. And then deselect, and then go back to the lasso and simply draw a border in that painted range, right? Just draw a line through those areas that I painted. And that attacks the gray, wrinkled trace paper effect. What essentially you've done is painted a line or a border. Select inverse, delete contents white, or simply push your foreground color to white, and it will disappear. What this does now, this is different than the previous method. I'm not losing some of my grays in my foreground. It gives me a little bit more control about where this white deletion goes before I make that lasso. And now I've preserved a lot of the grays that are in my foreground. It gives you more control. Okay? That's the second method. Okay. So try that. Makes sense? Nod yes, nod, shake your head, yes, no, yes, no. Okay. Extreme close-up. Okay. That's the second method. I'll open it again. Nope, not that one. And again, I just need to rotate it clockwise 1 degree. The third is the magnetic lasso tool. There are 3 lassos under the lasso tool. There is the lasso, there's the polygonal lasso, my favorite, and then the magnetic lasso. Again, it has a few variables, okay, from width to feather and contrast. But what you're doing then is telling Photoshop to drag a magnetic lasso over something. And what this can do is drag a lasso over complex curves and color areas. And like around this bicycle wheel, and around the signature, and around this cast shadow, and then around this, and then up around the back bicycle wheel again, and then up around here, and then around there, and then there, and then until you're closed. Magnetic lasso is a fairly smart tool that will simply isolate one color grouping from another. Right? And then we can either delete and then make that white. Whoops! Uh-oh. Select inverse, delete white, and that can create a white background around some sort of color drawing, color grouping. Okay?
Can I get rid of this one?
Hit escape. Yeah, to back out of a magnetic lasso or any lasso, you just hit escape. Those are 3 methods. Neither are foolproof. Neither are perfect. They depend on what the drawing is, right? And how the drawing is made, what kinds of color groupings are in there, all kinds of variables. But if you know all 3 methods, they will work. They will work for the different drawings that you have. But this is essentially to create a clean white border around a drawing. Okay. So deselect. You can see that wasn't perfect, so I will probably come in here for my purposes here and grab the polygonal lasso and make a nice clean break against my sky here. I hit the Shift key to make a perfectly straight line. Shift key is a great tool in Photoshop and across all Adobe, and that makes a nice clean break there. Okay. And then I might even, decide what kind of hard border I want. Now, you can see how different that is. This is a very hard border. For out of the 3 methods that I described, which would be best for this drawing?
First one?
Method 1, method 2, or method 3?
I'd say 1.
First one, okay. A couple of you say the second one. I'm going for the second one personally because, again, I care about these foreground grays. I'm kind of partial to how my gray marker was streaking there. And so I think for my drawing here, my purposes here, I think I'm going to go with method 2. So I'll just open that again. No, not that one. Another thing that's interesting, and that is when sometimes drawings are big and you scan them in 2 pieces like this one, you'll see funny lines like this. See that funny line right there, right next to the moon there? Kind of faint, but it's kind of there. Okay? The Band-Aid. Look for a Band-Aid. That's called the Spot Healing Tool. Wonderful tool. Oh my gosh. Just drag it over there and it goes, wah! All right, that didn't work. But the Spot Healing Tool is what your magazine editors are using for the fashion magazines and things like that. Spot Healing Tool can work wonders when you're dealing with edges that don't work so well, when you've got spots or you've got hard edges. The spot healing tool is a tool that a lot of magazine editors and folks out in the fashion industry and photography use a lot. So that can help clean up like this area right there. Maybe not. Okay, but or maybe a hard edge right there. Not working for me. But in many cases, that healing tool has been a nice one. So I said method 2, didn't I? Is that right? Oh, okay. Select color range, gray, adjust fuzziness. It's kind of like adjusting tolerance. Okay. Pick a brush, make it white. Make it edge.
What range did you put the adjust the fuzziness to?
2730. Yeah. Yep. I can also just get in here and paint away stuff, right? Just paint away that edge. Just paint this away, paint this away. Again, because I'm partial to these grays in the foreground. And then I'll just make a lasso. Okay, makes sense. 3 methods. Not all are perfect, but depending on what the drawing is, should work. Get a nice white clean edge so they look good in your portfolio and in PowerPoints and on boards and stuff like that. Nice white clean edge. These trace drawings are pretty forgiving, but they may require some brightness and contrast changes. Select inverse, delete white, okay. Deselect, save. If we just go into adjustment, brightness and contrast, image, adjust, brightness and contrast, you may want to just play with brightness and contrast now, just if you're concerned about color vibrancy or darkness or how something appears. You know, just these in just the very small numbers, just push them around a little bit and you'll discover that your trace drawings do take on a slightly different look when you just push the brightness and contrast a little bit. Okay. This is on the background layer, and the background layer is locked. If for any reason you need to deal with that background layer, just double click on the layer. It will turn it into layer 0. That layer is now editable. So for any reason at all. What's going on in the corner? What's going on over there? He's having a great time. Awesome. Yeah. Okay. That's because he learned some of this in 605. Yeah. Okay. So, it's like invasion of the fashion models. Awesome. Okay. So that's pretty good, right? Pretty good. Pretty ready. Now, do you want to jazz this up a little bit? Okay. Jazz hands, yeah. Dana's got the jazz hands ready. All right, come over. Make sure that you have a layers window open. You can see mine is right over here. All of my colors and things like that. Make sure you have a layers window open. So go under window and then layers. And then make a new layer, like that little 3-bar thing right there, that little button right there. And then you go new layer. And we'll call it layer 1. And layer 1 will appear over layer 0, like so. Okay. What would you say is the color of night in this rendering? Blue. Blue? Okay. What is your favorite color? What is your quest? So, we need to find where the heck the eyedropper went. So, we need to kind of chalk around here. You know, take a look at this. This now is going to be our foreground color. And we'll kind of, if you move the eyedropper around when you've got the color picker, you can see like, oh, look at that. And it's kind of running through a range in this blue, gray, slate blue kind of range. Maybe it's something over here. Okay, maybe it's something over here. Right? Now drag it down just a little bit into the gray for me, shall we? Just a little bit down into the gray. And that's going to be our new foreground color. Then we're going to pick our friend the paint bucket. This is on layer 1. And we're going to paint, oops. Uh-oh, step backward. Layer 1, not layer 0. Okay. Just paint that there purple right over the whole thing. Then, on layer 1, we're going to come over to opacity. And we're going to pull opacity down to about 65, 70%. Okay? 65, 70. Okay? Very important. Now, double click on the layer. You'll see blending options. Infinite numbers of blending options. I want you to pick blend mode, multiply. Blend mode, multiply. Double click on the layer. Gives you styles and blending options. Come under blending options and multiply, click OK. Multiply is extremely important because it is not covering up the colors that you have underneath. It is adding to them. Rather than covering them up like a piece of trace paper, this is now basically putting gelatin over that drawing below. This is now layer 1. Turn it off, turn it on. It's just a layer, no worries. It's like a piece of gelatin film or colored film.
So all the changes you had to multiply?
Yes. Yeah, blending options multiply. This step is directly from Jim Leggett Drawing Shortcuts blog. Okay. Now we're going to go to the eraser tool. Oh, and then we're going to give it a brush size and opacity. I'm going to bring the opacity down, and then we've got some flow. We'll play around with the flow, and I'm going to click. In my version here, I'm going to click on the airbrush version of the eraser tool. I don't know what yours will look like because you're operating on probably a newer version. But I have the ability, what?
It's still an airbrush.
Awesome, yeah. So airbrush, I'm going to turn down the flow, I'm going to turn down the opacity, and then what will we do? We're going to erase away the light. Erase away, erase away, erase away the lighted areas. This is right out of Jim Leggett. Erase away. So you can adjust the brush size, you can adjust the hardness, all of that. Bigger brush. Turn down the flow if you're not satisfied with this. If it's too hard, make it a little bit softer. I'm just going to start erasing away the light. I've turned down my flow, my hardness, and my opacity. And I'm just going to erase away, erase away, erase away. Our dancing hippie here, and our guitar player. Another dancing hippie, our spotlights. Side of the restaurant, the window, sign. Softly, just kind of gently erase away some of that darkness. And stop. Now, let's take a look at it. That's what it looks like, right? Just a bunch of blobs, right? So we've created a color. You can do a gradient or a solid color, by the way. Try it with a gradient. It might be fun to try it with like a blue to a black or blue to a gray. Put it in there. Turn down the opacity. change the blending options to multiply, and then erase away the light. And it'll give you this effect. Okay. So that's like playing with colored film. So. Okay. This concludes this part of the exercise.